My wife says every guy at her office wants a piece of her. Frankly, so do I, if she'd stop handing them out like party favors. The name's Nick Dalton, and I've been dispatching emergency calls for the city of Millbrook for 18 years. You learn to read people fast in this job. Voice patterns, stress indicators, the little tells that separate real emergencies from attention-seeking drama. So when my wife, Mara, started using the same vocal cadences she'd practiced in the mirror, I knew something was up. "Oh, stop being jealous," she said that Tuesday morning, stirring her coffee with theatrical precision. "What's wrong with going on dates with my coworkers? They all have a chance with me, so stop being jealous or I'll file for divorce." I looked up from my scrambled eggs, noting the slight uptick in her voice, the same pattern I'd heard from rehearsed 911 callers. "Okay, I'll file for you." The coffee mug froze halfway to her lips. Her face went white. No, you misunderstood." "I understood perfectly," I said, taking another bite. "And I've decided I should divorce you." She panicked then, really panicked. The mask slipped completely. "Nick, honey, I didn't mean it like that. I was just testing you, seeing if you cared enough to fight for me." Testing. That was Mara's favorite word lately. Everything was a test. Her late nights at the office, test of my trust. Her flirty texts with male coworkers, test of my confidence. Her demands that I give her space to explore her options, test of my devotion. I'd been failing these tests for months, apparently. "Greg Palmer asked me to dinner again," she continued, her voice taking on that practiced breathiness. "He says I'm wasted on a blue-collar guy like you. Maybe I should see what he's offering." Greg Palmer. 37 years old, drives a cherry-red Camaro with racing stripes, works in accounting at Mara's company. The kind of guy who wears cologne to the grocery store and calls women sweetheart, without irony. "Sounds like a real catch," I said. "When's the wedding?" Mara's eyes flashed. "You don't even care, do you? Your own wife tells you she might leave you for another man, and you just sit there eating breakfast. What do you want me to do? Cry? Beg? Challenge him to a duel? I want you to fight for me." I set down my fork and looked at her. Really looked. Mara was still beautiful at 39. I'd give her that. Blonde hair she spent $200 maintaining every month, green eyes that could sell ice to Eskimos, and a figure she worked hard to maintain. But somewhere in the last few years, the woman I'd married had been replaced by this stranger who spoke in scripts and measured love by the intensity of jealous reactions. "Here's the thing, Mara," I said. "I fought for you for 15 years. Worked double shifts to pay for your car, your clothes, your girls' trips to Vegas. I fought for you when your mother said I wasn't good enough, when your friends whispered that you could do better. But I'm not going to fight Greg Palmer for the privilege of being treated like garbage in my own home." She stared at me, and for a moment I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Fear, maybe, or calculation. "You'll change your mind," she said finally. "You always do." But I was already reaching for my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found what I was looking for. Celeste Lang, divorce attorney. Pete Russo, my best friend and former cop, had recommended her after his own messy split. The thing about being a dispatcher is that you develop certain habits. You document everything. You record calls for quality assurance. You keep logs of who said what and when. These skills, it turned out, were about to become very useful. I'd started recording our conversations 3 weeks ago, when Mara's tests became more frequent and more cruel. My phone had a voice memo app, and I'd gotten very good at starting recordings without looking. 18 hours of audio so far, documenting every threat, every manipulation, every casual cruelty. Pattern recognition was my specialty, and Mara's patterns were becoming clear. That afternoon at work, I called Pete during my break. The dispatch office was quiet. Tuesday afternoons usually were, and my crew was handling the radio traffic. "She's escalating," I told him, explaining the morning's conversation. Pete whistled low. "Divorce threats, huh? That's serious territory. It's not the first time. She's been using it like a weapon for months. Do what I want, or I'll leave you. Give me money, or I'll file papers. Stop questioning my behavior, or you'll be sorry. You recording this stuff?" "Every word." "Good man. What else you got?" I pulled out a notebook where I'd been tracking Mara's activities. "She's been working late 3 nights a week for the past 2 months. Claims it's overtime, but I called her office last week. They don't authorize overtime for administrative staff." "So where's she going?" "That's what I need to find out." Pete was quiet for a moment. "You want me to tail her?" "Not yet. I want to be smart about this. If she's really planning to file for divorce, I need to be prepared." "What about the coworker? Greg, what's his face?" "Palmer. Greg Palmer." I'd already looked him up on social media. Divorced 2 years ago, no kids, lived in a fancy apartment complex on the north side. His Facebook was full of gym selfies and pictures of his car. She's been mentioning him a lot lately, always in the context of how much better he treats women, how much more money he makes. You think they're sleeping together? I think Mara wants me to think they're sleeping together. Whether they actually are? I shrugged. Doesn't matter, the damage is the same. That evening, I got home to find Mara in full makeup and a dress I'd never seen before. Going somewhere? I asked. Work function, she said, not meeting my eyes. Team building dinner. On a Tuesday? Is that a problem? I shrugged. Just seems like an odd night for it. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Don't wait up. After she left, I called her office again. The cleaning crew answered. The building had been empty since 6 p.m. No work function, no team building dinner. I poured myself a beer and settled in to wait. The voice recorder app on my phone was ready. Whatever game Mara was playing, I was about to learn the rules. She came home at 11:47 p.m., reeking of wine and men's cologne. Not Greg's usual brand. I'd smelled that on her before. This was something expensive, sophisticated. How was the team building? I asked from the couch. Fine, she said, kicking off her heels. Boring, actually. Learn anything interesting? She paused at the bottom of the stairs. Like what? I don't know. Team building exercises, trust falls, that sort of thing. Nick, I'm tired. Can we not do this tonight? Do what? The interrogation. The suspicious husband routine. It's exhausting. I hit record on my phone. I'm just asking about your evening. No, you're looking for something to be upset about. You always do this. I go out, I have a life outside this house, and you act like I've committed some crime. What crime would that be? She stared at me, and I could see her choosing her words carefully. You know what? I'm done walking on eggshells. If you can't handle the fact that other men find me attractive, that's your problem. Greg tells me I'm beautiful every day. He appreciates what he sees. When's the last time you even noticed I was in the room? I notice everything, Mara. Really? Then you've noticed how miserable I am, how trapped I feel in this marriage, how much I regret settling for someone who can't even pretend to care about my happiness. The words hit like a physical blow, but I kept my voice steady. Is that what you told Greg tonight? Her eyes went wide, then narrowed. I wasn't with Greg tonight. I didn't say you were. You implied it. Actually, you brought up Greg. I was just asking about your team-building dinner. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The script had gotten away from her. I'm going to bed, she said finally. Mara? She turned back. Next time you want to lie about where you've been, make sure the office is actually open. Her face went pale, but she didn't deny it. She just climbed the stairs, and I heard our bedroom door close with a decisive click. I stopped the recording and saved it to my secure folder. 18 hours and 23 minutes now. The pattern was becoming clearer with each conversation. Mara wasn't just testing my devotion, she was building a case for something. The question was, what? The next morning, Mara was gone before I woke up. No coffee made, no note, just the lingering scent of her perfume and an empty house that felt more peaceful than it had in months. I called in sick to work, first time in 3 years, and drove to Pete's security consulting office downtown. He operated out of a converted warehouse, all exposed brick and high-tech equipment, the kind of place where ex-cops went to make real money. You look like hell, he said when I walked in. Feel worse. I need your help with something. Pete poured 2 cups of coffee and gestured to a chair across from his desk. Talk to me. I played him selected recordings from the past few weeks. Mara's threats, her manipulations, her casual cruelties delivered in that practiced, theatrical voice. Jesus, Pete said when I finished. She's really doing a number on you. It's not just the emotional stuff. Something else is going on. Look at this. I spread out bank statements on his desk. Our joint checking account. Notice anything? Pete scanned the numbers. You're hemorrhaging money. $3,000 a month for the past 4 months. Cash withdrawals, always on days when Mara claims to be working late. Could be anything. Gambling, drugs, shopping addiction. That's what I thought at first. But look at this. I showed him Mara's credit card statements. No unusual purchases, no cash advances. Her spending patterns are normal. So, where's the money going? That's what I need to find out. And there's something else. I pulled out a folder. Mara's been pushing me to update our prenup. She wants protection for her future earnings potential and a guarantee that I won't contest any divorce proceedings. Pete whistled. She's planning an exit strategy. Gets better. She wants me to sign over power of attorney for all financial decisions to her mother. Janet? The HR dragon? I nodded. Janet Broom was Mara's mother and the chief of human resources at Consolidated Industries, where Mara worked as an administrative coordinator. 62 years old, ice cold, and the kind of woman who could end careers with a phone call. Janet's been calling the house more often lately, I continued. Always when I'm at work. Always asking about our finances, our plans, whether I'm taking care of her daughter properly. Sounds like they're coordinating something. That's what I'm thinking, but what? Pete leaned back in his chair. You want me to run surveillance on Mara? I want you to run surveillance on all of them. Mara, Janet, Greg Palmer. I want to know where they go, who they talk to, what they're planning. That's going to cost you. I've got money saved. Separate account Mara doesn't know about. Pete grinned. Smart man. How long you been planning this? Planning what? Your escape route. I thought about that. Longer than I realized, apparently. That evening, I was waiting when Mara came home from her late meeting. She looked surprised to see me in the kitchen. You're home early, she said. Actually, I'm home at my normal time. You're home late, again. She set down her purse and began the familiar routine, checking her phone, avoiding eye contact, preparing her defenses. We need to talk about the prenup, she said. What about it? Have you had a chance to review the changes? I'd reviewed them all right, with Celeste Lang, the divorce attorney. The proposed modifications would leave me with virtually nothing in case of divorce, while guaranteeing Mara a substantial settlement regardless of fault. It's interesting reading, I said, especially the part about your mother getting power of attorney. That's just a precaution, in case something happens to one of us. Like what? I don't know. Accident, illness, whatever. Mom knows about finances. She can make sure everything's handled properly. Your mother hates me. She doesn't hate you. She just thinks I could do better. And what do you think? Mara looked at me then, really looked, and I saw something calculating in her expression. I think I'm tired of having this conversation. Either you trust me or you don't. I don't. The words hung in the air between us. Mara's mouth opened, then closed. What did you just say? I said I don't trust you. I don't trust your late nights, your mysterious cash withdrawals, your sudden interest in revising our prenup, or your mother's involvement in our marriage. And I especially don't trust your new friend Greg. Greg is a coworker. Greg is a divorced man who spends his evenings buying drinks for married women. How would you know what Greg does with his evenings? I smiled. Because I've been watching. It wasn't true, not yet, but the lie had the desired effect. Mara's face went white. You're having me followed? Should I be? This is insane. You're being paranoid and controlling, and I won't stand for it. Then leave. The words came out before I could stop them, but I didn't take them back. Mara stared at me in shock. What? You heard me. If you're so unhappy, if I'm so terrible, if Greg Palmer is such a better option, leave, file for divorce. Take your chances with the prenup we actually signed, not the one you're trying to con me into. Nick, I'm done, Mara. Done with the games, done with the tests, done pretending this marriage is something it's not. You want out? There's the door. She stood there for a long moment, and I could see the wheels turning. This wasn't how the script was supposed to go. I was supposed to fight for her, beg her to stay, agree to her demands. You don't mean that, she said finally. Try me. What about our son? Eli. 16 years old, quiet, smart, spending more and more time at friends' houses to avoid the tension at home. He'd been caught in the middle of this mess for too long. What about him? You think this is healthy for him? Watching his mother threaten divorce every time she doesn't get her way? Watching his father get treated like a servant in his own home? You never what? Never told me other men were better providers? Never suggested I wasn't good enough for you? Never made it clear that staying married to me was some kind of sacrifice on your part? Mara's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I caught a glimpse of the sender. Mom. You need to take that? I asked. It's nothing. Looks like your mother wants to talk, probably wondering how the conversation went. What conversation? The one where you get me to sign the new prenup. The one where you secure your exit strategy. The one where you and Janet get everything you want while I get played for a fool. Mara's phone buzzed again. Then again. Janet was getting impatient. I should go, Mara said. Yeah, you should. Give my regards to Greg. After she left, I sat in the kitchen and called Pete. How's the surveillance coming? Interesting developments. Your wife's not the only one with secrets. What do you mean? Janet Broom's been having some interesting meetings. Financial advisor, real estate attorney, private investigator. PI? What for? That's what I'm going to find out. But Nick, whatever they're planning, it's bigger than just a divorce. I hung up and poured myself a drink. Outside, I could hear the neighborhood settling into evening, kids being called in for dinner, dogs barking, the distant sound of a lawnmower. Normal sounds from a normal world that suddenly felt very far away. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Your wife is beautiful. Too bad she's wasted on you." I stared at the message, then saved it to my evidence folder. The game was escalating, and I was starting to understand the rules, but I was also starting to understand that I might not be the only one playing. Pete called me at work the next day with news that changed everything. "You need to see this," he said. "Meet me at Murphy's bar after your shift." Murphy's was a cop hangout, the kind of place where conversations stayed private and the bartender minded his own business. Pete was waiting in a corner booth with a manila folder and a grim expression. "Remember how I said your wife wasn't the only one with secrets?" he began, sliding the folder across the table. Inside were photographs, financial records, and what looked like employment documents. "Greg Palmer," Pete continued, "divorced accountant, drives a red Camaro, lives beyond his means. Tell me something I don't know. He's broke. Alimony payments, credit card debt, underwater on his car loan. The fancy apartment? He's 3 months behind on rent." I studied the financial records. "So how's he affording to take Mara to expensive restaurants?" "That's the interesting part. Look at this." Pete showed me a series of Venmo transactions. Regular payments to Greg Palmer, always in round numbers. $500, $700, $1,000. The sender was listed as J. Broom. Janet's paying him? Gets better. I followed Greg yesterday. He didn't go to work, called in sick. Instead, he spent the afternoon at a hotel bar with your wife. But here's the thing. They weren't acting like lovers. "What do you mean?" "I mean, they were having a business meeting. She gave him an envelope, he counted the contents, they shook hands, very professional." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "She's paying him to date her?" "That's what it looks like. But why would a woman pay a man to pretend to be interested in her?" The answer hit me like a freight train. "Because she's not trying to make me jealous. She's trying to make me desperate." Pete nodded. "Keep going." "The prenup changes, the power of attorney for Janet, the threats to leave. It's all designed to make me panic. Sign whatever she wants, agree to any terms, just to keep her from leaving. And if that doesn't work?" I thought about the mysterious $3,000 disappearing from our account every month. "Then they moved to Plan B." "Which is?" "I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out." That night, I came home to find Mara in the living room with a bottle of wine and a stack of legal documents. "We need to finish our conversation from yesterday," she said. "Which conversation was that?" "About trust, about our future, about whether you're willing to fight for this marriage." I sat down across from her, noting the careful staging, the soft lighting, the wine, the vulnerable pose. Even her outfit was calculated. A sweater I'd bought her for Christmas, jeans that made her look younger. "I've been thinking about what you said," she continued, "about not trusting me. It hurt, Nick. Really hurt. I'm sorry you feel that way." "Are you?" "Because sometimes I think you want me to leave. Like you're looking for an excuse to end this marriage." I activated the voice recorder on my phone. "Why would I want that?" "I don't know. Maybe you found someone else. Maybe you're tired of being married to someone who challenges you, who has ambitions beyond this little house and this little life." "What ambitions are those?" "I've been offered a promotion. Regional coordinator, based in Chicago. 50% salary increase, full benefits, company car." This was new. "When?" "Last week, but I turned it down." "Why?" "Because of you. Because I thought our marriage was worth more than a career opportunity. But now I'm wondering if I made a mistake." The performance was flawless, the right mix of hurt and hope, sacrifice and resentment. If I hadn't known about Greg Palmer and the Venmo payments, I might have believed it. "That's a big decision," I said. "What does your mother think?" "Mom thinks I should take it. She says I'm wasting my potential here." "And what does Greg think?" Mara's wine glass paused halfway to her lips. "Greg? Your coworker. The one who's been taking you to dinner, telling you how beautiful you are, how much better you deserve." "I don't discuss my personal life with Greg." "Really? Because he seems to have a lot of opinions about our marriage." "I don't know what you mean." I pulled out my phone and showed her the text from the unknown number. This came from Greg's phone. Mara stared at the message, and I watched her calculate responses. Deny knowledge, claim her phone was hacked, blame me for snooping. "He's concerned about me," she said finally. "He can see how unhappy I am." Unhappy enough to leave? Maybe. For Chicago? Or for someone who appreciates what he has? I leaned back in my chair. Here's what I think, Mara. I think there is no promotion in Chicago. I think there is no job offer. I think this is just another test. Another manipulation designed to get me to sign your new prenup. You're wrong. Am I? Then show me the offer letter. I don't have to prove anything to you. Actually, you do. See, I've been doing some research. Consolidated Industries doesn't have regional coordinator positions. They don't have offices in Chicago. And they sure as hell don't give 50% raises to administrative coordinators. The color drained from Mara's face. You called my company? I called a lot of places. Very educational conversations. Oh, you had no right. I had every right. You're my wife, this is my house, and these are my finances you've been playing games with. Mara set down her wine glass with shaking hands. What do you want? The truth. About what? About the $3,000 a month disappearing from our account. About your mother's sudden interest in our finances. About Greg Palmer and whatever arrangement you have with him. I don't know what you're talking about. Then you won't mind if I call Greg and ask him directly. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through contacts. Mara lunged forward and grabbed my wrist. Don't. Why not? Because it's complicated. Complicated how? She released my wrist and sank back into her chair. For the first time in months, I saw the real Mara. Not the performer, not the manipulator, but the woman I'd married. She looked scared. My mother's in trouble, she said quietly. What kind of trouble? Financial trouble. She made some bad investments, borrowed against her pension, got in over her head. How far over her head? $200,000. I whistled low. That's a lot of money. She'll lose everything if she can't pay it back. Her house, her retirement, her job. So you've been giving her our money to help? It was supposed to be temporary, just until she could figure something out. And Greg? Mara closed her eyes. Greg was Mom's idea. She thought if you believed I was having an affair, you'd be more motivated to make changes. What kind of changes? The prenup, the power of attorney. She needs access to more money, and our assets are the only thing she has left. The pieces were falling into place now. Janet's financial crisis, Mara's sudden unhappiness, the staged affair with Greg Palmer. All of it designed to manipulate me into signing over control of everything I'd worked for. How much does Greg know? Nothing. He thinks it's just a game, that I'm trying to make you jealous. Mom pays him to take me out, flirt with me, send you threatening texts. And you went along with this? She's my mother, Nick. She raised me, put me through school, got me my job. I couldn't just let her lose everything. So you decided to sacrifice our marriage instead. I hoped you'd never have to know, that we could get through it and things would go back to normal. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and saw a woman who'd gotten in way over her head. But I also saw someone who'd chosen her mother's financial problems over her husband's trust, who'd been willing to destroy our marriage to solve someone else's mistakes. What happens now? I asked. I don't know. Well, I do. I stood up and gathered the legal documents she'd brought. First, I'm not signing anything. Second, you're going to stop taking money from our account. Third, you're going to tell Greg Palmer that his services are no longer required. And if I don't? Then you can explain to a divorce judge why you've been embezzling marital assets to pay for fake affairs. Mara's eyes widened. You wouldn't. Try me. Nick, please. If Mom loses her job, if this comes out, then maybe she should have thought about that before she decided to drag us into her mess. I headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and Mara, tell your mother I said hello, and that I'll be calling her tomorrow to discuss repayment terms for the $12,000 you've stolen from our account. Nick, wait. But I was already walking away, leaving my wife alone with her wine and her lies and the wreckage of whatever plan she and her mother had been cooking up. The game was over. Now it was time for the reckoning. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my home office, organizing evidence and planning my next moves. By morning, I had a strategy. First stop, Celeste Lang's law office. This is quite a mess, Celeste said after reviewing my documentation. She was a sharp woman in her 50s, with steel gray hair and the kind of no-nonsense attitude that came from handling messy divorces for 20 years. Can we recover the money? Possibly. If we can prove it was taken without your consent for purposes outside the marriage, yes? But it's going to get ugly. How ugly? Your mother-in-law could face embezzlement charges. Your wife could be charged as an accessory, and if there's more money missing than you know about, this could become a criminal matter. I thought about that. Despite everything, I didn't want to see Mara in prison. but I also couldn't let Janet Broom destroy our lives to save her own. What are my options? File for divorce immediately, with full financial disclosure requirements. Freeze all joint accounts. Demand an audit of any financial transactions involving your wife or her mother over the past year. And if they cooperate, then maybe we can work out a settlement that doesn't involve criminal charges. But Nick? Celeste leaned forward. You need to understand that your marriage is over. Even if you could forgive what your wife has done, the financial entanglement with her mother makes any reconciliation impossible. I knew she was right. The woman who'd sat across from me last night, admitting to months of deception and manipulation, wasn't someone I could trust with my future. File the papers, I said. My next stop was Consolidated Industries. I'd never been to Mara's workplace, but Pete had provided me with detailed information about the building layout and security procedures. Janet Broom's office was on the 3rd floor, behind a reception area guarded by a stern-looking secretary who clearly didn't appreciate unannounced visitors. I'm here to see Janet Broom, I told her. Do you have an appointment? Tell her Nick Dalton is here. She'll want to see me. 5 minutes later, I was sitting across from my mother-in-law in her corner office. Janet was a handsome woman who'd aged well, with silver hair and the kind of authoritative presence that made people nervous. She'd never liked me, and she wasn't bothering to hide it now. This is highly irregular, she said. If you have concerns about Mara, you should discuss them at home. I'm not here about Mara. I'm here about the $12,000 you've stolen from my bank account. Janet's face didn't change, but I saw her hands tighten slightly on her desk blotter. I have no idea what you're talking about. Really? Because I have Venmo records showing payments from you to Greg Palmer. I have bank records showing cash withdrawals from my account that correspond exactly to those payments. And I have recordings of Mara admitting that you orchestrated this whole scheme. Recordings? I'm a 911 dispatcher, Janet. I record everything. She leaned back in her chair, studying me with the same calculating expression I'd seen on Mara's face. What do you want? I want my money back, all of it, plus interest. And if I refuse, then I go to the police and to your employer and to the state pension board that's going to be very interested in how you've been managing your retirement funds. Janet was quiet for a long moment. You don't understand the situation. Enlighten me. I made some investments that didn't work out. The money I borrowed was supposed to be temporary, just until the markets recovered. Borrowed from where? Employee pension accounts. I have access as HR director, and the oversight is minimal. I felt my stomach drop. You embezzled from employee pensions? I borrowed against them. The money was going to be replaced before anyone noticed. How much? $200,000. Jesus Christ, Janet. You could go to prison for 20 years. Which is why I need your help. My help? The prenup revisions would give Mara access to your retirement accounts, your savings, the equity in your house, enough to pay back what I borrowed and save both our futures. You mean enough to cover up your crimes. I mean enough to prevent a disaster that would destroy multiple families. I stood up. Here's what's going to happen, Janet. You're going to return every penny you took from my account. You're going to stay away from my wife and my family, and you're going to figure out how to clean up your own mess without dragging us into it. And if I refuse, then I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are. Janet smiled then, a cold expression that reminded me why I'd never liked her. You're forgetting something, Nick. I'm the HR director of a major corporation. I have resources you can't imagine. Friends in law enforcement, connections in city government. If you try to destroy me, I'll destroy you first. Is that a threat? It's a promise. I headed for the door, then turned back. You know what the difference is between you and me, Janet? What's that? I don't have anything to hide. That afternoon, I met Pete at his office to plan the next phase of our operation. Janet's more desperate than we thought, I told him, explaining the pension embezzlement. $200,000 from employee accounts? Pete shook his head. She's looking at federal charges, which makes her dangerous. She's not going to go quietly. What about Mara? Divorce papers will be served tomorrow. She'll have to choose between helping her mother continue this fraud or protecting herself. You think she'll choose you? I thought about my wife's face the night before, the fear and desperation I'd seen there. I think she'll choose survival. And Greg Palmer? Time to have a conversation with Greg. We found Greg at his usual hangout, a sports bar near his apartment complex. He was sitting alone at the bar, nursing a beer and staring at his phone with the expression of a man whose world was falling apart. Greg Palmer, I said, sliding onto the stool next to him. He looked up, startled. Yeah? Nick Dalton, Mara's husband. Greg's face went white. Oh. Oh shit. Relax. I'm not here to fight you. You're not? Nope. I'm here to offer you a deal. Pete took the stool on Greg's other side, effectively boxing him in. Greg's eyes darted between us nervously. What kind of deal? The kind where you tell me everything you know about Janet Broom's arrangement with my wife, and I don't press charges for harassment and extortion. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone and showed him the threatening text. This came from your number. That wasn't me. Mara sent that. She had my phone. Why? I don't know. She said it was part of the game. What game? Greg looked around the bar nervously, then leaned closer. Look, man, I never meant for this to get out of hand. Janet approached me 6 weeks ago, said her daughter needed to make her husband jealous, asked if I'd be willing to help out. For money. $500 to take her to dinner, flirt a little, maybe send a few texts. Easy money, you know. And you didn't think it was strange? I thought it was weird as hell, but I needed the cash, and it seemed harmless. What did Janet tell you about me? That you were taking your wife for granted, that she needed to feel desired again. She said it was like marriage counseling, but more creative. Pete leaned forward. What else did Janet tell you? That's it, man, I swear. I take Mara to dinner, we talk, I drive her home. Nothing physical, nothing serious. But the texts? Mara's idea. She said her husband needed to see that other men were interested. I studied Greg's face. He was scared, sweating, clearly in over his head. Just another pawn in Janet's game. Here's what you're going to do, I said. You're going to write down everything, every conversation with Janet, every instruction, every payment. You're going to sign it, and you're going to stay away from my wife. And if I do that, then this ends here. No charges, no trouble. And if I don't, Pete spoke up for the first time. Then we have a very different conversation. Greg looked at Pete's scarred hands and decided cooperation was his best option. 20 minutes later, we had a signed statement detailing Janet's arrangement with Greg, including dates, amounts, and specific instructions. It was enough to prove conspiracy and fraud. One more thing, I said as we prepared to leave. If Janet or Mara contact you again, you call me immediately. What if they threaten me? Then you definitely call me. As we walked to our cars, Pete shook his head. That woman really thought she could manipulate everyone. Janet's used to being the smartest person in the room. She's about to learn what happens when she's not. What's next? Tomorrow, Mara gets served with divorce papers. The day after, Janet gets a visit from the state pension investigators. You sure you want to go that far? I thought about 15 years of marriage, about the woman I'd loved and trusted, about the future we'd planned together. Then I thought about the lies, the manipulation, the willingness to destroy our lives for someone else's mistakes. Yeah, I said, I'm sure. The war was just beginning. Mara was served with divorce papers at her office the next morning. By noon, my phone was ringing. You bastard, she said without preamble. How could you do this to me? Do what? Tell the truth? Destroy my life over money. $12,000 isn't just money, Mara. It's my son's college fund. It's our emergency savings. It's 15 years of working double shifts and overtime. We can pay it back. With what? Your mother's embezzled pension funds? Silence on the other end. You know about that? I know about all of it. The question is what you're going to do about it. What do you mean? I mean you have a choice. Help me recover our money and testify against your mother's fraud, or go down with her when the federal investigators start digging. She's my mother. And I was your husband. How did that work out? More silence. The divorce papers include a full financial disclosure requirement, I continued. Every transaction, every account, every asset. If there's more money missing than I know about, now's the time to come clean. There's nothing else? You sure about that? Because if I find out you're lying, the settlement offer disappears and you get nothing. What settlement offer? Talk to your lawyer. You have 48 hours to respond. I hung up and immediately called Pete. Phase 2 is in motion, I told him. How's our other project coming? Better than expected. I've got a contact at the State Pension Oversight Board. They're very interested in Janet Broom's investment strategies. When? Tomorrow morning. They'll want to interview you as a witness. And Mara? Depends on how smart she is. That evening, I was making dinner when Eli came home from school. My son was 16, tall and quiet like his old man, with his mother's green eyes and an intelligence that sometimes made me proud and sometimes scared me. Dad? Mom called. She's staying at Grandma Janet's tonight. Okay. Are you guys getting divorced? I looked at my son, this young man who'd been caught in the middle of his parents' failing marriage, and decided he deserved the truth. Yeah, we are. Because of the money? Because of a lot of things. The money's just the last straw. Eli nodded. I heard you fighting last night. About Greg and Grandma Janet and some scheme. How much did you hear? Enough. He sat down at the kitchen table. Mom's been acting weird for months, staying out late, whispering on the phone, crying when she thought nobody was looking. I'm sorry you had to see that. It's not your fault. I know Mom's been lying about stuff. What kind of stuff? The job offer in Chicago. There is no job offer. She made me promise not to tell you, but she's been practicing the story for weeks. I felt a surge of anger at Mara for dragging our son into her deceptions, but I kept my voice calm. What else? Greg Palmer's not her boyfriend. I saw them at the mall last month, and they were sitting at separate tables, like they didn't want to be seen together, but they kept looking at each other. You're pretty observant. I get it from you. Eli managed a small smile. Are we going to be okay? Financially, I mean? We'll be fine. Your college fund is protected, the house is in my name, and I've got good lawyers. What about Mom? That was the question I'd been avoiding. Despite everything she'd done, Mara was still Eli's mother, and I didn't want to poison their relationship. Your mom made some bad choices. She's going to have to live with the consequences. Will she go to jail? I don't know. That depends on what she does next. The next morning, I met with investigators from the State Pension Oversight Board. They were federal agents, serious people with badges and recording equipment who asked detailed questions about Janet's financial activities. Mrs. Broom has been moving money between accounts for 8 months, the lead investigator told me. Employee pension contributions, disability funds, even the Christmas party budget. We estimate the total theft at over $300,000. 300,000? I thought it was 200. She's been very creative. Shell companies, fake vendors, phantom employees. If your wife hadn't started withdrawing cash from your account, we might never have noticed the pattern. What happens now? We arrest Janet Broom this afternoon. Your wife will be questioned as a potential co-conspirator. And if she cooperates, then she might avoid criminal charges. But her career at Consolidated Industries is over either way. That afternoon, I was at work when Pete called with news. Janet's been arrested. Perp walk and everything. It's all over the local news. What about Mara? Picked up for questioning an hour ago. Word is she's talking. Talking about what? Everything. The fake affair, the pension theft, her mother's threats to destroy your career if you didn't cooperate. She's throwing Janet under the bus to save herself. I felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief that Mara was finally telling the truth. Sadness that our marriage had come to this. Any word on the money? Most of it's gone. Janet was gambling with pension funds, trying to win back what she'd stolen. Classic embezzler behavior. So we're out $12,000? Not necessarily. The feds are seizing Janet's assets, house, car, retirement accounts. You'll be in line for restitution as a victim of the fraud. How long will that take? Could be years. But Nick, there's something else. What? Greg Palmer's been arrested too. For what? Turns out he knew more than he let on. Janet was paying him with stolen pension money, and he helped her set up some of the fake vendor accounts. I thought about Greg sitting in that bar, sweating and scared, claiming he was just an innocent pawn. Apparently, he'd been lying too. So much for easy money, I said. There's more. Mara's been fired from Consolidated Industries. Effective immediately. No severance, no benefits. On what grounds? Conspiracy to commit fraud, misuse of company resources, violation of ethics policies. Her career in corporate administration is over. I should have felt victorious. The people who tried to destroy my life were facing justice, my marriage was ending on my terms, and my financial future was secure. Instead, I felt empty. That evening, Mara came home to pack her belongings. She looked exhausted, defeated, older than her 39 years. I'm sorry, she said without looking at me. For which part? All of it. The lying, the manipulation, dragging you into Mom's mess. Why did you do it? Because I was scared. Mom said if I didn't help her, she'd lose everything. Her house, her pension, her reputation. She raised me by herself after Dad left. I couldn't just abandon her. So you abandoned me instead? I thought I could fix it. Get the money back, pay you back, make everything normal again. Normal? I laughed bitterly. Mara, you paid a man to pretend to seduce you. You threatened to divorce me every time I questioned your behavior. You tried to trick me into signing over power of attorney to a woman who was embezzling from employee pensions. What part of that was ever going to be normal? She started crying then, real tears, not the theatrical kind she'd been using for months. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you and Eli and probably destroyed any chance of us working things out, but I never meant for it to go this far. What did you think was going to happen? I thought you'd sign the prenup changes. Mom would get access to your retirement money, she'd pay back what she borrowed, and everything would go back to the way it was. Except I'd be financially ruined and our marriage would be built on fraud. I wasn't thinking clearly. No, you weren't. She finished packing in silence, loading boxes into her car while I watched from the kitchen window. When she was done, she came back inside one last time. What happens now? Now you face the consequences of your choices. Will you tell Eli? I'll tell Eli the truth, that his mother made mistakes and has to deal with the results. Will you ever forgive me? I thought about that question. Forgiveness was possible, maybe even inevitable given enough time, but trust, respect, love. I don't know, I said honestly. I'll always love you. No, you won't. You'll always love the idea of me, the stability, the security, the backup plan. But you never loved me enough to choose me over your mother's schemes. She nodded, accepting the truth of it. Goodbye, Nick. Goodbye, Mara. After she left, I sat in my quiet house and called Celeste Lang. How's the divorce proceeding? Smoothly. With the criminal charges pending, her lawyers recommending she accept our settlement offer. Which is? Minimal alimony for 2 years, no claim on your retirement or the house, shared custody of Eli. She keeps her car and personal belongings, you keep everything else. And if she refuses? Then we go to trial, and a judge hears about her role in defrauding employee pension funds. Trust me, she'll take the deal. What about the criminal charges? She's cooperating with federal investigators. If she testifies against her mother, she'll probably get probation and community service. And Janet? Looking at 5 to 10 years in federal prison? I hung up and poured myself a beer. Outside, the neighborhood was settling into evening. Kids being called in for dinner, dogs barking, the distant sound of a lawnmower. Normal sounds from a normal world that suddenly felt within reach again. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. Drinks tomorrow to celebrate? I typed back, Sure, but we're not celebrating the divorce. What are we celebrating? Survival. 3 months later, in a federal courthouse, Janet Broom received her sentence. 7 years in prison, full restitution to the pension fund, and forfeiture of all assets. Mara, having testified against her mother for immunity, sat diminished in the gallery, the weight of her choices etched into her face. The judge's words were unsparing. You violated the trust of hundreds who depended on you. Your crimes were calculated and devastating. No leniency is warranted. Janet was led away without glancing at her daughter. Outside, Mara approached me. It's over. For her. You still live with what you did? She looked exhausted. I got a job, night shift data entry, minimum wage. No benefits. My career's gone. Background checks kill it every time. That's the price. We stood in silence, strangers bound only by a son and legal papers. How's Eli? Good. Grades up, playing basketball. Happier. Does he ask about me? Sometimes. I tell him you're working through things. Can I see him? Supervised visits only. But if you manipulate him like you manipulated me, I'll seek full custody. I understand. Do you? You destroyed our marriage, helped steal from working families, paid a man to pretend to love me, all to please a mother who controlled you. I was weak. You were 39. You chose not to think for yourself. She nodded slowly. You're really done with me. I was done the night you admitted paying Greg Palmer to make me jealous? No chance? Even for Eli? Especially for him. He needs to learn actions have consequences. She walked away across the plaza, a woman who'd lost everything by never valuing what she had. That evening, Eli and I ate pizza. He asked about court. Grandma got 7 years. Good. And Mom? I feel sorry for her, he said. But she always did what Grandma told her, even when it was wrong. She threw away a good life. You're wise, kid. I get it from my dad. I smiled. Stubbornness, too. Later, alone, I wrote a letter to myself about trusting instincts, the difference between love and manipulation, the courage to walk away, and the value of choosing your own integrity over someone else's dysfunction. 6 months on, restitution brought back most of the stolen money. Greg Palmer faced 2 years for conspiracy. Mara kept her night job and started therapy. I was single, secure, breathing easier. The game was over. I'd won by refusing to play.